Everyone, welcome back, and let us start with the 11th lecture of a series. In this lecture, we are going to go through a few topics. First of all, we'll start with why the name variable and not container, why they have chosen to name any container which holds some value as variable only. Okay, because let's say you write a is equals to 2. Okay, so here like we have seen in the last lecture that there is no variable. Okay, his a is only an identifier which is pointing to a variable. 2 is the value contained inside the variable, and variable is the actual memory location towards which a is pointing, and the value 2 is contained inside it. Okay, so such a memory location is called variable. But why this name? It is because, variable means anything which can vary. Okay, so like if you wish to do, in the next line you can do a is equals to 3. Though a different place will be assigned where 3 will go, and this linkage will be broken, and a new linkage will be established, and now a will be pointing towards this. So it is in this context it has been named variable, as this identifier, the linkage of identifiers to the placeholders of different data types under the single name can vary. Okay, so hence the name variable comes. Okay, just a trivial information, not that important, but one should know. Okay, and now we are going to see a few more things like multiple variables in single line. We can do that. We can create multiple variables in a single line. Let us try it out. Okay, so I have already opened the Python interpreter in interactive mode. So let us see how to create it. So we can create, let's say, 3 identifiers, and we can separate it by comma, and after the assignment operator we can specify 3 values separated by comma. So here what will happen is a will get the value of 2, b will get the value of 3, and c will get the value, or c will point to the variable or the memory location which is containing the value 4. Okay, so here 2, 3 and 4. 3 memory locations will be reserved, and 3 variables will be created with the values of integer type as 2, 3 and 4, and these variables will get a, B and C identifiers respectively. Okay, so let us check. What we'll do is we'll print A, and then on the next line we'll print, you can see the moment you print A it says 2, print B it says 3. Similarly, if you print C you will see 4. So this way you can have multiple variables created in one single line. Okay, and there is no such restriction, like let's say if you want to have x comma y as 2 identifiers for the 2 variables which you will be creating, and let's say once you have 56.5, and other data value can be of a string type also. Okay, so let's say if you print x it will give the float value, and if you print y, so it will return you the string. So this way you can have multiple variable creation in one single statement. Okay, now coming to the second one that is left about variable is swapping. Now swapping means changing value of two variables. Okay, so let's say one variable I'm defining as m, and let's have its value as, let's say 10. Let's say another variable I'm defining as n, and let's declare is or put a value of 20 inside it. Now generally what we saw was we took the help of a third identifier, and then we interchange it, just like changing or swapping the contents of a glass, like juice for example, by taking the help of a third glass. Though internally that we saw that it was not actually that the case. However, we have already seen that. Now there is one simpler way, but this is unique to the Python. So the earlier approach that we saw would work in general in all programming languages. However, this approach is specific to Python. So I'll recommend that you be very careful when you're trying to do the same or implement the same in another programming language. So that is very simple. You can write m comma n, is equals to n comma m. Okay, and then press enter. And now if you print the values of, let's say, m comma n, so it should come as 20 and 10. So this is the second way, but this approach is peculiar, or the is only till now I have seen working in Python only. Okay, so this concludes our basics discussion about the variables. Now let us come to something new. That is, we had already seen a very basic program of adding two numbers. Okay, let's say this is our program. Okay, and here we are displaying the contents of C, which is containing the sum of the variables identified by A and identified by B, which in turn will give us 30. But now, okay, what we want, this program has a limited application, which will not be very useful, because this program gives us the result of only two numbers. Each time you run or execute, this program will only give you 30. Wouldn't it be better if we can have, let's say, a program which in general can display the result, sum of any numbers, while that user provides to it. So let's say if you want to create a program which accepts two number from the user while executing, while running the program, and then displays the result dynamically. So accept two numbers from the user. Okay, so what to do in that case? Okay, so for this we'll be learning a method known as input. Okay, so input method, sorry, input function. Okay, now first we'll see, let us comment out this line, these lines for now. First we'll see the general behavior of input function. So what input does is, when you execute the program, it will ask for some value from the keyboard, and the moment you give the value to it, it will accept those values, convert it into string type, and then will store it in a memory location, and then will associate an identifier with it. Let's say, for example, x is equals to, if you want the input to be accepted from the keyboard, from the user, you'll have to write input function. Okay, this, what it will do is, okay, let's also display now in print of x. Okay, so what this program will do is, this will accept input, this method, this function will accept, when you are executing the program, the input from the user, and then will create a variable for that. That is, in a memory location randomly selected. It will, whatever you have given will be first converted into string, and then will be stored in the memory location. For example, if I can draw it here and show. Okay, so let's say you write x is equals to input, and then you run the program, and your program is print x. Okay, so here what will happen is, when you execute the program, first line will be executed, and as we know, first R value, or the RHS, right side of the assignment operator, will be processed. So in that case, input function will wait for user input from the keyboard. Let's say in the keyboard you press something, okay, sequence of characters, and let's say you press hello from the keyboard. Now what it will do is, this hello will be converted into string by input function, and then it will be replaced here. Okay, so internally this statement will change as, once the user has given the input from the keyboard, it will change as, let's say user gave hello, HELLO. So user gave whatever user wanted, but however, remember one thing, that it always gets converted into string. This is done by input. Okay, so now what will happen is, because this value has appeared for the first time in the program, so a randomly variable location will be selected, hello will be put inside it, and it will be associated with the character, this identifier as x. Okay, so this is all about this input function. Let us see how it works. Okay, So we'll first come out of the interactive mode. Okay. So we'll now execute the program. Let me just see the name of the program. Okay, it's in sixth. Okay, I have saved it, and now I'll run sixth Python 6.py. Now you can see a blank screen and a cursor blinking. That means your program is waiting for the user input, and that is being done by this. Because as soon as your program started, first line being comment was ignored. Second line, it was here, R value was first encountered, and it tried to process this input function, and whose behavior is that it will wait on the screen for the user to type something. Okay, and as soon as the user is done typing and presses enter, that value will be converted to string and then will be put inside a variable, and to which identifier X will be associated. Okay, now let's say I give an input here, hello. Okay, and now the moment I press enter, you will see hello being printed. That is, X now contained the value of the identifier X, pointing towards a variable which contained the value provided by the user, which in this case was hello. So here we can see that input function provides us a means to create a variable which will store the value provided by the user. Okay, but here one problem was there. Suppose I have created a program, so I know that user is expecting, this program is expecting some input here. Okay, but suppose someone else comes and then executes your program, and the person will get confused what to do now, because it's blinking here. Nothing is mentioned. Okay, so no instructions is there. So that doesn't make much of a sense. So wouldn't it be better if you can somehow the user gets a hint or some suggestions ki what should be done here and what type of value can be given here? That would have been excellent, right? So there is another mechanism of providing prompt or a message that is displayed before to the user while entering the value. So let's say for that, I'll just execute it and then close it. Now, in order to display the message that is regarding the input that the user, any program person who is running the program should give at that particular place for that particular input, in that particular input, inside it, you can contain one string, that is a message enclosed within single or double quotes, which may prompt the user, or which may leave a message for the user, which user will receive at the when he or she executes the program. So here we can write enter any message. Okay, and then you can leave code and then leave some space. Okay, now let us try to execute this program once again. Now it makes better sense now. So because now user knows, okay, any message, that is up to me what message I want to give. So let's say I give good morning. Okay, now good morning was printed. It made sense. However, now since we have seen how input function works, okay, here we'll see how to accept, how to now solve our original question, which was to provide accept two numbers from the user as input, and then print the sum. So here we'll uncomment the original lines. Okay, so here what we have to do is, okay, I'll just get rid of them. So now the first line is giving you the program statement, what program does. So we can, being a comment is ignored. Then second line here, because we are giving hard-coded values, these two places we have to ask value from the user, so that that number which the user provides can now be added and the sum can be obtained. So here, of course, we'll use input. Okay, and here again second input, because we'll be asking input for the second time, and we'll also leave a message, okay, or the prompt. The message that you leave inside input is function is known as prompt. So enter a number. Okay, and let us copy the same message. Okay, now let us run the program. Okay, let's clear the screen first and then we'll run the program. Enter a number. Let's say I want a sum of 10 and 20. And let's change the number 50 and 60. But now, because what happened? We were expecting 110, but it gave us 50 and 60. Yes, we need to be careful with this. Why? Because if you remember, input, I mentioned, input function accepts input from the user and converts it into string. So what happened is, here, let's say in one of the variables, I accepted a is equals to 50 and in b equals to 60 and c equals to a plus b. So here, input accepted the value, okay, and converted it into string. Again, let me just get rid of it. I'll put input here. Okay, I'll fine. So here, let's say we have input with a prompt. You can suppose that prompt is written and another input. Now, what input does is in the first line, it waits for the user to write something and then converts it into string and places. Suppose you gave 50. You thought you're giving a number, but input converts it into string. Similarly, second line, B, you thought that you're giving a number, but input by its nature converts it into string. Okay. And then, of course, two variables will be created with this 50 and with a label A, and then string with numeric value 60 B, and C, you will try to, Python will try to perform addition operation, but it will find that on both sides of the plus sign, while processing the RHS value of this statement, C equals to A plus B, it will find that on both sides of the plus sign, it's getting, internally it will be replaced by 50 plus 60. Now, since both the sides of the plus sign is a string, so we remember that concatenation will be done, because in case of strings which separated by plus sign, concatenation is done. So 5060 appears and this becomes concatenated one string, single string. So this C will change to quotes 5060. So this 5060, what that you're seeing on the screen is not a number, it's a string, a concatenated string. If you wish, you can also see the type of that value, because we have already learned how to see the type. Print, okay, type, let's say C. Okay, so here, just a minute. If you run the program again and if you provide again the same input, you will see type str. So that means this number that you are seeing is a concatenated string, because 50 and 60 that you provide, which you thought you were providing as number, were converted into strings, and then because of the plus sign, concatenation happened and the result, concatenated result, that is one single string 5060, was stored in a variable identified by C. So how to overcome this problem? That means how to change the behavior of this input in case we wish to be we wish that whatever input is being given by the user should be treated as a number. So because input converts it into a string, so this is the default behavior of input, we cannot change it. However, we can convert or typecast it. That means we can change the type of the string, of any string, to input type using another function known as int. Okay, fine. Okay, int. What it will do is, if the number is provided and if it is within quotes, and if inside the quotes it finds that a value is capable enough of being converted to input integer type. Okay, so what I'm saying is very important. If int function can convert a string to integer type, only if it finds that the string contains some alphanumeric sequence which is capable of being converted to string, sorry, input. So in case if you write 50A, because 50A cannot be converted as string by removing the quotes, because 50A is not a numeric value, hence it will give an error. However, if you give 50, okay, then your result will be successful. Okay, because 50 is capable of being converted into string, sorry, integer by removing the quotes. Not even 50.5, because this is a float value. Float value also, by simply removing this quotation signs, this 50.5 is not a integer value because it is a float value. So again it will fail. Okay, so we'll simply see that if your whatever value you have given is qualified to become an integer by removing the quotes, then int will convert that type of string to integer. So in this case, if you write int, and if the integer this input function, whatever input it takes and converts into strings, that string is capable of being converted to integer, then it will become integer. And then finally b can will also this b statement will also be processed the same way, and then c becoming integer, in the c, a and b both becoming integer will result in the proper sum, not mathematical sum, because now numbers are there on the other both the sides of the plus sign, and then finally you will get the answer as integer, and type will also verify the same. Now let us save and run this program. Let's say 50 and 60. We can see 110 and class int. Now let us try with some erroneous inputs. Let's say I give here 50 and I give here 68. We'll see error immediately being thrown. Invalid literal for int with base 10 60. That is, it's a way of saying that whatever value you have given for int function is invalid. Okay, because it's not a number which can be converted to string. Also, if you try to give a float value, let's say first number I give 1.1. Okay, again it says because it is a floating type, it cannot be converted again. Okay, so these are the few things one should keep in mind while converting into from a string to a numeric type. Not only int, if you want the number to be treated as a float, you can write float. Okay. Okay, in this case, even if you give an integer type, let's say 2, it will be accepted as 2.0. Okay, and then we'll see. Let us clear the screen. Okay, so let's give here 50.5. Okay, and 60.79. Now we can see answer. Now the precision of this is quite high. That's why you will see that somewhere around 10 or 15 decimal places the values will be obtained for the float data type. So okay, it's good. Now, so this is about using different converting strings to different types. We can also see that even if you give integer values, it will automatically convert into float. Okay, first of all, string, it will convert into string. Okay, and then that string will be converted into floating type. So suppose you give 2, it will be converted to 2.0, and 3 will be converted to 3.0, and hence the answer will be 5.0. Okay, so even if you give a numeric type which is capable of being converted to floating type, but actually it is a pure integer, then 0.0 will automatically be added by float here. This automatically appends 0.0 if the number is a pure integer. Okay, but the other way it doesn't work. That is, if you give int and if you give float here, then that string, that is 1.1 or 50.5, will not be capable of being typecasted or converted by integer. Okay, so this completes our discussion regarding accepting inputs. So we have seen that if you want to accept only string value, then you use input with pure form. Also, if you want to convert the number, or except if you want to be a number, if you want the number to be treated as an integer or float, then you will use integer and float function, and inside it, which you will be having input function. Also, in order to make the program more presentable, so that the user knows while executing the program what type of value to be given, or what message you want to leave for the user while executing the particular program, and what type of value must be provided by the user if you have to convey that, then there is an effective mechanism of using a string which is known as prompt of input function, which will be displayed at the time the user is entering the value. Okay, so that concludes our discussion for this part. Thank you.